Hello. Today we are doing this interesting thing. I mean, it's interesting for me. I want to react to Jax Harrington's video, and more importantly, I want to look into his code. And I always complain about PHP, and I figured that could be like a good video, especially if I can manage it like in a half an hour. That would be great. So this is like a very old movie. Probably no one remembers it, but it's called Blast from the Past. So every time I see people code in PHP, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do that like 15 years ago, like almost 20 years ago now. And yeah, this happened again. So my thing about PHP is that it's unsecured by default, and people are so used to new tools that are secure by default, they like don't even realize how bad everything is. And I'm going to uh, I'm going to quickly mention the thing that like happened before. So like 9 months ago, I was tweeting something about like how bad PHP is, and someone said, "Oh no, that's like old PHP. New PHP is better." I'm like, "Okay, like show me like the new docs that are like not bad." And like a lot of people said, "Okay, so this is the YouTube channel that talks about PHP, and this is the best like PHP channel. It's like very secure, like everything is covered. You are worrying for the wrong thing, like nothing like that ever happens in PHP anymore." And I watched through like two videos or something, and like I think like in the first video, I was able to find the SQL injection. And like the funniest thing is that like he talks about this is the like this is how PHP is in my mind. It gives a lip service of like, hey, you should think about security in your PHP code. It's not saying like PHP is so bad that you like this is the only thing that you have to basically think about. He's like, hey, you need to think about security like a bit. But then he says, but I don't do it all the time because like I'm so cool, I know what I'm doing. And then he continues to introduce SQL injection. So this is the perfect kind of like explanation of how I see PHP, is that like they kind of realize that it's bad, but they don't have like any tools to fix it. They just incapable of doing the right thing. And this is great
Use. Actually,
because
we could take this out of.
because like here it's like a textbook SQL injection. Like he's not sanitizing the input, he's just like passing a string as the SQL query. And I don't know what to do. If people think that PHP is secure, if they refer to people who they think have like all the answers and they don't have the answers, and they like say you, hey, it's safe to do this bad thing right after they said that you should think about security, and it's like, yeah. Because I think like here, like on the top, right? So he is using the right syntax of like of I mean like tools nowadays are some of them are like even better, but this is like the bare minimum of like you're passing the value, and you're preparing the query, and then you're putting the values. And if that value is not the right type, it will complain sometimes, and so on. So it's like this is the tools that you have to use all the time, all like without exceptions. And they're like, yeah, it's okay, I know that you can do it safely, but I'm not going to. And what they will say you is like, hey, but I casted that ID to integer so that it's like it's safe, but it's like it's safe here, but you're using it here. It's like, what is going to prevent you from like changing it for debug purposes or for some other reason? And it's like just like and like forgetting to do that, right? So it's like it's the explanation that they always give is like, yeah, but like I know what I'm doing. So I just like, no, but this is like, this is not scalable approach. It's only maybe slightly secure while you're writing it, but as soon as like a little bit things change, it will become completely unsecure. And yeah, it's so easy to look at PHP code and say, hey, this is SQL injection and this is XSS injection, and they're like, I didn't see it yet. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so I wasted what is like 5 minutes on introduction, but I wanted to react to that video because I think it's a good video. I like Jack's videos. I think he does a lot of um, uh, real real work, if that makes sense. It's like I just talked about like how PHP is insecure and how you can find like any code and it will have this issue, but like I didn't go and find it, right? The only thing that I did is like I found my old comment, and this is like the extent of my work. But Jack will go and like create repos, like create benchmarks, and do kind of like real work. So I'm really like I'm really liking his videos because he puts real work into that. I don't know if we can get through the whole video, but I will try to. I just watched it, so I don't know. Go and watch it. And um, if I skip something, yeah, just go and watch it.
Next.js React Server Components, or RSCs, have turned React into PHP. I keep hearing this everywhere in my comment stream on this channel, on Twitter, and any time I hear a lot of stuff like that, I like to say to myself, well, let's try it out. Let's take a look at PHP versus Next.js RSCs and a super secret dark horse candidate, a language that we've never covered before on this channel. We'll look at developer experience on this 10th
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, okay, it's going to be Rust.
anniversary of React. Are we still getting the same advantages that we got 10 years ago over PHP?
Yes, and I think that's a great point. It's like 10 years ago, one of the things that we got over jQuery and PHP, because his code has XSS cross-site scripting injection in both of them, in both jQuery and PHP. So yes, that's exactly the point of like why all of this happened is React was secure by default. And if you want to do unsecure thing, you have to do dangerously insert HTML and all of that stuff. That was like that was the thing.
And do they still matter? And of course, we'll look at performance. And some of these numbers, they're going to blow your mind. But before we get started, I want to say a big thank you to GetNation, who covered the cost of my travel to Amsterdam so I could go to the JS Nation and React Summit conferences, which were incredible. The biggest React conferences I've ever been to. And it was so great meeting a lot of you in person and hearing what you liked about the channel and trading stories. It was fantastic. I got 7 interviews with presenters at the conference, including Mark Erickson and Ryan Carniato, and I'll be posting those over the next few weeks. But without further ado, let's get right into it.
2019. I'm surprised that he started kind of recently.
In order to have a comparison, you have to have an app to compare. So this is the app that we're going to compare. It starts off with a simple table. There is no client-side interactivity here yet at all. It's just a table of the first 20 Pokemon coming out of this JSON file, which acts as our microservice in this example. On the far right is PHP. At the top, we go and get the URL using file get contents.
I was so confused, like on the far right, it's on the left.
And we convert that JSON into an array, take the top 20,
and by the way, like I'm looking at this and like, okay, where's the security issue? Like, is that the safe way of like parsing JSON?
Then
is that the right way to like splice arrays? I don't know why, but this is all I think when I see it when I look at PHP code.
JSON into an array, take the top 20, and then we just have our HTML, and in the middle of that we have our for each loop that goes through each one of the items in the array.
I was surprised he's not using tables. It's I don't know. It's un-PHP-like, if that makes sense.
And outputs it as a div. Literally, the entire application fits right on the screen here.
I guess, yeah, the question is, where's the security vulnerability? Yes, here it is. You're inserting the naked values. If that value has like a angle bracket, that's going to be treated as a tag. If it has, I forgot what the other ones are. What are the other ones that are like that you will see quickly? Yeah, I think it's like some special symbols. So if you write like ampersand or something like that, and it's like, oh, why did my like half of my words disappeared? Oh, but it's like it's a special HTML symbol, and it's like it's not escaped. So that's how it works. And like the solution for that is to use real templating. So like HTML, PHP is not a real templating language. It requires a lot of you to do it right. And like in the olden days, what we would do is like if you have an attack, you need to cast it to integer. If you have a defense, you need to cast it into integer, and so on. So it's like, okay, but now we have a name. Like, what do I do with names? And it's like, yeah, HTML special. What is it? PHP HTML special chars. Is that still a thing? Do they have any examples? Okay, fixed tags. What's fixed tags? Nice. Just don't see just don't see kind of like realistic examples. Okay. Yes. So this is where you would start. Is like um instead of just showing the symbols, you would start something like that. And that's where you're like, oh, but it doesn't work in this case, it doesn't work in this case, and that's how you get this like 30-year-old forum uh that, yeah.
On the far right-hand side, we have the React Server Components version. We have a component home that first starts off by doing a fetch.
Yeah, it's interesting why you need cache, no cache. I guess because you're using next, it could do something like funky with a cache, but I was under the impression that cache is per user or like per request, so it shouldn't like affect if you're calling it multiple times. So that was confusing a bit.
To get the data, and then it awaits the JSON, and we get back an array from that. And then we return the JSX where we have the table header, and then we use a slice to get the top 20, and then we map over that and create all the divs. And I think you can see why people are saying that these two things are starting to look a little bit symmetric.
Yeah, so it looks symmetric, but it does different things, right? So it's like the thing on the left, it's hydrated, even though it's like a server component and so on. It's like you still run a lot of JavaScript, and like if you're doing uh, even like for simple stuff like uh, joining the arrays, yeah, it's just like it's just like a nicer syntax and all of that stuff for JavaScript, even though they kind of do the same thing, but it's clear what is happening. And because of JSX, you're like guaranteed that all of your tags are like that are open, they're going to be closed. But here, when you're just doing an kind of like string concatenation, like nothing is going to check that you're like this div that you opened here is going to be closed. It's like, okay, it's like that closing tag could be like outside of the loop and all that stuff. So it's like it like the similarity is like so surface level that I don't know. It's It's pretty like, I think when we joke that like, hey, this is PHP, it's like it's like funny. Uh, it's funny to do that, but when I joke that React is like PHP, I actually know the difference. And when other when I hear someone say like, "Hey, this is like just like PHP," and I realize that, oh, they probably don't know what PHP is. They probably feel like this is the same, but this is not the same. this is like in a sense that's like how C templating works. It's like, yeah, but this could be like, you could do PHP tag for just like a closing bracket or something like that. There are crazy things that you can do because you're just working on the string. It's like nothing checks that it's like a valid HTML or valid XML and so on. But like here, it has to be like a real structure. If you forgot to close your tags, or if you put something in like in a paragraph, like React itself will like complain, hey, you're doing things that are like not supposed to be happening in HTML, and PHP will not. That's the difference. Like you're doing like a real a framework on the right, and you're doing a silly string concatenation script on the left. It's nice that we get almost the same developer experience, but we get so much more for that. And again, there are like frameworks for PHP, and it's it's a bit like it's a bit disingenuous to compare PHP without a framework with React with a framework, if that makes sense. But I probably understand why they do that, because it's like, yeah, but what PHP framework? It's like, if you're talking about Laravel, like clean installation of Laravel has like, I don't know, like 30 files. It's like, yeah, but here I just have like one file. Can I just like do this simple thing? Okay, we're 2 minutes in. We're already like spent 15
And
minutes.
I think you can see why people are saying that these two things are starting to look a little bit symmetric.
So I'm going to skip a lot probably.
That being said, if I replace the PHP version with a Next.js 13, Pages version, they also look pretty similar. The only difference is that I moved the fetch from inside the component to now inside of get server-side props. The result is the same. In each one of these three scenarios, app router, Pages, and PHP, all three are server-side rendered. And of course, all this code is available to you on GitHub for free in a link in the description right down below. And that is our DX comparison on the server side between PHP and...
Yeah, so DX comparison, like remove a closing tag and now compare DX. That's where DX comparison is going to happen. It's like for the perfectly working code that you don't need to change. It's not a fair comparison. You just like try to write all of that stuff and try to see what kind of errors you will see if you write the style tag name wrong, or if you like forget to close the tag, or if you like need to move few things like in and out of the loop. And it's like that's the where DX happens. I don't know. Okay, so uh, okay, so now he's writing search, and then he starts
and
to write.
we're in this one, decoding the JSON.
Where is it? Yeah, so now he starts to write. So first of all, it's like this comparison of like using jQuery. So first of all, I didn't think you need like document stuff anymore. I don't remember like the whole story, but I was perfectly fine writing without this. And I think the I think the way that it happened is that uh, you basically were like trained to include JavaScript at the bottom of the file, on the top of the file in like hat tag. I think it like improves the speed when the script is started to to be downloaded. So that means that if your application code is also like in the head, if you try to like look for elements, they're not going to be there because it's too early. So you're like, okay, once the document is loaded, that's when I'm going to start. But this is going to be like kind of like too late. So the approach that I'm like taking in Astro is I would just like move my application code lower in the document, and at that time like the document is already there. So mm, maybe it's for streaming. I don't know. So it's like this actually could be slower. So I don't know why you need like I don't I don't know why you need jQuery. I don't know why you need like a jQuery document and kind of like similar thing of like why do I do get JSON? Why do I do like encode URI component? Like there are like so many modern APIs to do that. It's like why am I why am I doing it this way? And yeah, so like this, like uncasted this, and like .js files. It's like you can do all of this stuff is like in JavaScript or like in TypeScript and with like kind of like modern tools. Why why do you need to do all of this stuff? Uh, okay, so here's where the bad story starts to happen, right? It's like okay, so I have this. Um, yeah, I don't know if I can find like the whole code. Uh, okay, let me just go to. Let me just go to. I guess that's probably the right version. Okay, search. So it should be JS file. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to say, right? So it's like table append and then just whatever the jQuery is going to return here. Like how are you making sure that this name doesn't have HTML in it, right? Because there are like ways to actually do it like for real, but it's not going to look as nice if that makes sense. Um, okay, I just need to find like
Well, the code
one other thing that I wanted to cover. I'm like going too slow, so like I'm afraid to like to react through the whole
the
thing.
JSON, then we'll just do a simple array filter to go and pare that down to the items that we want, and then we'll return the JSON. Now back over in app.js, we can make that fetch to go get that data.
Yeah, exactly. Fetch. Like
To do that, we
why are
call
you using fetch?
$.getJSON, and then it's got the data section down below. When we do empty, we get rid of all of it. So the first thing we need to do is I join it all together, and there you go. Now to replace the data section,
Yeah, well, like you don't need to reset the heading. That was also like a I don't know unconventional way
we'll
of
just
doing
use a
it.
for. We do that same kind of thing. We just append row by row as we go. Let's hit save and see how we go. Wow, awesome. All right, so now we have symmetric applications between PHP and Next.js 13.4. Let's talk about some of the advantages of React that we saw when we were working in PHP and figure out if they're still there. So let's do our side-by-side taste test again with PHP on the far left-hand side and Next.js on the other side, and we'll talk about the 3 advantages that we got with React that kind of pushed us to using React. The first was isomorphic rendering. So what does all that mean? Well, if you look at the React side of the house, everything is done on JavaScript on both the server and the client. Even though it says use client in this component, it's being rendered on both the client and the server. And it's using the same exact JavaScript to do it in both places. Whereas on the PHP side, you've got 2 different ways you render tags on the page. The first is using PHP, and the second is using JavaScript later. So what happens if we make a change to the PHP side and we don't make a change to the JavaScript side? Well, those 2 things can get out of sync. And
Yeah, I like to talk about this stuff, and the way that I frame it is like are you writing your app twice or are you running your app twice, right? So that's basically the idea, is that in PHP jQuery days, if you wanted to do everything perfectly, you needed to write your application twice. So once everything has to be rendered on the server, and then everything needs to know how to render on the client, and you're duplicating basically like as much stuff as you have in interactivity. And in that days, that meant that you will start with PHP, and then like the more kind of like tasks that you have, like, okay, can we sort this table? Can we do that? Can we do this? And it's like that's where you will start re-implementing the logic that already works on the server in JavaScript. But then it's like, okay, but we need to push a new feature. Now we need to implement it twice. If we need to like remove a row, we need to go like in like 4 different places and remove it. And that's how people kind of like quickly realize, okay, it's kind of like it's wasted effort to do everything twice. And one thing was to try to like synchronize stuff, and that's where you would like put your JavaScript um, logic in a sense right into HTML. So that's what kind of like things like Alpine do. That's where you start with like you're outputting all of that stuff from PHP, but you're adding those kind of like annotations. And in jQuery, I think it was jQuery UI that was doing kind of like a similar uh, approach. If that makes sense, is like you will just um, you will just like annotate your stuff. Uh, what does it have to be like? So we can see like annotations. Yeah, this is uh, maybe I'm thinking about something else, but yeah. So this is like most of the code is just in JavaScript, but for some but for some things you would have it. You would have some kind of like I mean, here it's just like a special meaning, right? So it's like it's not you're not like marking interactive parts. It's just like it just this component just knows that you have like headings and a div. So, but in a sense, you could like you can imagine that you can write like the f this section then visible or something like that. So um, Knockout was like completely JavaScript, but it, I mean, probably Knockout. Let me try if that like shows what I mean. But it's like you're writing in your HTML, you're like explaining how everything is connected, and then like once server render your thing once, JavaScript will like pick apart all of this stuff, and you will have kind of like less duplicated but the main part is like less out of sync, if that makes sense. It's like because you're still duplicating all of your logic, but it's like it's harder to get it completely out of sync. If you like if you removed uh if you removed like a column in HTML, now it's there's you don't have that column in JavaScript anymore. This is like a bad example. Again, that's the thing about Jack. He prepares his stuff before doing it. Uh, but this is like this is just annotations of like, okay, so this is how my thing is connected to this thing, and it's scoped to like this thing. So on the back end, I can do what is looks almost like HTML, but again, it's like there's no type checking, there is no like yeah, you just like change it and test that it works. There are like no in terms of DX, there are like no safety nets. It's just like just test it. There is no way to do that otherwise. And again, this is this is slightly better because this is going to be as far as I remember, they at least do like XSS stuff. So if I have X text, I don't have to like manually escape it. It's going to work kind of like in the modern framework in a sense. So um, in practical terms, he probably should have used HTML like PHP uh, framework, and he should have probably used something like a Alpine for the front end. If he's doing vanilla PHP and vanilla jQuery comparison, that comparison should be heavily talking about like how bad this actually is, and like how inefficient it is to go and like add text into DOM like in a loop, how how bad it is like security wise, how unergonomic it is, uh, and how quickly out of sync or like just like um, uh, semantically like incorrect. I just remember that like you will remove one line in PHP and now like your whole website is blowing up because now all the like divs are closed in the wrong place. And it's like, yeah, there is no kind of like component scope that to protect you. It's like it's broken in this component. No, it's just broken in the whole website. And I don't know if I can. I guess it's easier to show it in the code, but so like when we're talking about PHP, it's actually a bad practice to close PHP tags. Maybe it's not in this one, but like API one, search something. Yeah. So this is actually like a bad practice, and I learned it the hard way because I was in PHP. You would like include files, so and it's like a string kind of like include. So whatever this string that thing is going to produce, that's what is like kind of like getting outputted. And if you have like any kind of like white space or whatnot, like after this closing tags, it's going to be like included. And I just had like a line ending or something like that, or some kind of like special white symbol, and it's like yeah, it just like didn't work. Like everything was blown out because when I was including like 10 files, one of those files had like an extra white space, and like my XML wasn't valid or something like that because there was like white space and then like XML tag. Yeah, so you don't include that thing. This is kind of like the just yeah the good practice of you start with PHP and you don't end up with it because it's slightly easier, and it's like for yeah, especially like for kind of like library files or whatnot. Like here it's kind of fine. uh, but where you're doing like API, that's where you shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Yeah, and speaking of DX, like where did you get the Tailwind file? Who generated it to you, right? It's like a good DX questions. Okay, so I guess I just wanted to show this one. This is also kind of like not entirely the way that you would do this. And okay, I should show it in the video first, since I'm kind of reacting to the video.
JavaScript
right?
to format. These are the numbers on my
And
performance. Everything is done on Tinder, and really
okay, I don't remember what that was. Okay, so it was jQuery, but then he said, I don't want to like duplicate the code. It should be here. Okay. Yeah.
how they make DOM updates. Now, one last thing before we go, this is actually the kind of React way of writing PHP. What you probably do instead is something like this. We create another PHP script called search HTML.
This is PHP way of writing PHP. I don't know what else to say here.
And it would do the same search, but instead of returning JSON, it would just return HTML. And then over in our app.js, we can get rid of all of this. And instead, we call $.get, instead of getJSON, we call search HTML, give it that search value, and then we get back the text, and then we just use .html to replace the entire contents of that block.
yeah, so this is like why it's bad, right? Because you're not making sure that this data is actually safe. What if it has like a script tag inside of it, right? So you are going to be inserting just like a random HTML into your thing. So that's where, like in jQuery days, we would go out and like write actual kind of like validators and check that data that comes in from the network is actually like right data. So like calling this React way is like is still on many levels, but one of the levels is that you can't do .html in React. You have to do dangerously sad and all of that stuff. And that's like, okay, what? Why? Yeah, because you're inserting any HTML that you're going to get. Again, for this particular case, you're getting it from JSON. You probably had checked that JSON that it's good, but then someone changes this to get JSON from API. Then someone changes it to get from like maybe like configurable or some other way how you can like change the actual data that is going to be sent, or change the actual URL where you're getting this data, or something like where you're doing the search result. Okay, and now like all bets are off, and because it's like it's unsecured by default, you're just like hoping that everything works out. As soon as kind of like any changes are going to happen, this is going to blow up. uh, okay, so we're going to quickly uh, we're going to quickly clone that repo, and I guess I can fork it so that I don't have to like change all of that stuff later if I want to push. Oh, yeah, I'm trying this like Code Insiders because they have GitLab. Oh, GitHub Copilot thing, and yeah. Uh, so first of all is let's go. Oh yeah, yeah, I forgot. Sorry. Like I have so many things that I want to say. Okay, cannot validate. Yeah, I don't have PHP installed, so that's on me. Okay, so first of all, is that this idea of like this is being React way. So you should go kind of like a step, uh, one step more, and you should create a file that's the part about like getting stuff out of sync and like all of that stuff. That's the part where you like uh, uh, render table.php. So you would get most of this stuff. You don't have PHP installed? Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe, but I left my PHP days behind me. So as I said, like this is the best practice of like not to close this. Um, you have to create like a function. Uh, I I don't remember PHP syntax, so I'm just going like feeling. Yeah. Do you need my like PHP certification? So we need to create a function that is like print or what is it, like render table. I think they have like some kind of like type annotations now. But I'm going to say uh, Pokemon. Why is it not Pokemons? Okay, I don't know. I don't know how Pokemon works. Pokemon. Okay, so you put all of this stuff into a table or into a function. Again, like I don't remember how to do that. But the idea is that you move all of the filtering and all that stuff outside of it, and Is it like echo? Yeah, where's the copilot when I need it? Uh, I'm pretty sure this is how you have it. I don't remember. I don't remember if you need to do anything special. By the way, just when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, well, what does this mean? It's a shorthand for echo. Yeah. So every time you see this thing, you should imagine PHP echo, and that means that you insert this string, then you insert this string. So the right way of like escape it somehow. And you just go to your vulnerability forums and you just like look at what is escape function is today, because it's going to be different. It's going to be different on every like PHP version. It's going to be different depending on what was the last hack. So this is like the most important thing here. Yeah, so like imagine we have this function somehow. So this needs to be escaped. Oh, this needs to be escaped. And again, like if I'm missing a like a parenthesis somewhere, it's like, yeah, good luck finding out where it is. Oops. Okay, I always don't know how to use that in Mac. Um, okay, so you need to do something like that, and then in your search thing, instead of doing this, you do uh, import something. I don't remember how the syntax works. Include, and then yeah, so you do this, and you do the same here. So instead of this, what was the? Yeah, it starts with table, so it starts with here. They do include, um, include and render, and you close it outside. So you need to close it like that. So this is kind of like more of the like the right way of doing it React way when we're talking about PHP. But the whole point was not to duplicate this code, not to get it out of sync, to make sure that it like works. Um, Again, I don't have PHP. I have no intention of trying to run it, but this is the approach. What you do now is, yeah, so you do vanilla, and again, it's like, why are you not doing document right here? You could do it. So you could do like document. You could do it like that, right? So you could wait for document right. Why are you not doing it? Because it's like modern days, you don't have to do that. And okay, so we have this vanilla, and we're doing innerHtml just like for the lols, right? So the first thing that you do is you do search. Uh, this PHP code looks great. Oh, because it's P. Yeah. So you do new URL search params so that you don't have to do any of that stuff, and you do again, preferably you do like URL equals new URL with all of that stuff, but we can start it, like this is this is already better. Uh, uh, this is like more modern API, and so now this scary part is like we're inserting some uh, we're inserting some HTML into some data. Uh, I guess I should start with the other one because it's a bit easier to show on the other one first. So let's get rid of this stuff, and I mean, I can just copy it, right? Uh, so you can do, and again, it's like you need to check. the errors first. You need to check. Oh, okay. So it's like all the stuff that React Query does for you, or even like Next.js, like you need to do that stuff. It's like it's not that simple. It's like you're comparing like two different things if you're not doing it. But so let's go back to so if we're doing what is it? Search into HTML. But where is the search PHP? Oh yeah, so you're doing search PHP now. You're doing all that stuff. So you're getting JSON, and this is going to be Pokemon. Okay, so and we do all of this stuff. So it's like you have the you have some of the like the right things, but okay. So like we're finding the table again. Table is like HTML, so it's like it's not divs, so it's not actually the table. If you just yeah, I'm not going into that into CSS stuff, but there is a way to preserve that header so that you don't have to like recreate it all the time. And so we have all of this stuff. I mean, I should probably mention it, but so first of all is that if you're talking about header, it's like yeah. So let's get rid of the header here. Let's insert it. Let's insert it here. Okay, I don't have formatting. Okay, so here just create a div, give it a style, a display contents, and do this, and move ID to that div. And yeah, you can show it you can put it in CSS as well. But anyway, so it's like the idea is that it will style all of this thing as part of the grid because of display contents, but you don't have to destroy headers all the time. So like half of this thing is like, yeah, you don't need it anymore. You don't need to duplicate that anymore if you know a bit of CSS. Again, I don't know CSS, but so this is like not bad. So here's the thing. Don't do empty. I mean, don't do it right here. do it this way. Okay, I need to like yeah. Speaking of like knowing HTML, I have this button. Yeah, so I can do replace with, and if I do create document create element div. So instead of dot button, I know how to do. Yeah, I think that's the right way to do that. So create a new table. You can use something like this. I would not use it. I would use document create element table. This is this is already better. This is already kind of like uh, how modern JavaScript works. And again, like I realize that no one knows how JavaScript works. Everyone uses React. Like I'm not here to shame. I'm here to educate. So you have this table. Fine, all good. What you can do now, if you like append stuff to that table, so like yeah, so you table append channel. So if you're doing it like that, you're doing it off screen. So you're doing DOM changes on the element that is not connected to the DOM, like not visible DOM. It's like you created an element and you can like manipulate it. And because you're not showing it, you don't need to like repaint everything when the changes happen and all that stuff. So it's like this is kind of like a pretty easy trick. So now the question is like, okay, so what do I put there? And um, so I have rows, and what would be the way that I would do it? Okay, so let's start with so like we don't have rows, we have new. Hmm. Okay, so let's start with this thing, for example, I don't know, like speed. What you can do is you can do like speed equals uh, jQuery, like this thing, right? Or I guess, yeah, you're doing template literal. So you can start here. It's like, okay, so let's create that element. Uh, so, but as I said before, this is like XSS vulnerability. So whatever the speed is, it's going to go. So you're like, okay, I know that it's a number. So even if I get the wrong data, I will just turn it into a number and it's going to be safe. Again, for something like speed, you can do that. Just don't forget to do that and all of that stuff. Um, what we started to do at some point was you do speed, text, and this. So like I don't need number anymore because it's a text. I don't do HTML here. I do text. Uh, and the modern way of doing that is just document create div, and it's inner. Uh, no, it's text content now. Yeah. So this is the idea. You create a div and you set text to that number, not HTML. Like, why do you need HTML here? It's kind of like stupid. It's just that here you don't have like a vocabulary to express that as if it's a text. You can only express it as a HTML. But like here, you can do that. So and I can do speed now, right? And just move it outside. Uh, Say it table column and return speed. I mean, yeah, there are different ways of doing that. You could pass new table. Uh, I think this is like kind of like less side effecty, so I kind of like it more. So all of them are divs. They have text and they have class. Yeah, I think you can't name it class, but yeah. And again, it's like JS. Why does it have to be JS? You could write it in TypeScript, um, and it's going to be like much nicer. Uh, okay, so now here I can do a table column. What was it like? Uh, yeah, so let's say row name and the class is font bold, right? So if you have a class, set that class, and uh, so it's like kind of like optional thing. So here we do this. Okay, I some have some stuff missing. Like there's an extra. Yeah, I think so. So this is my name. Then I have type. Then I have PHP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, speed. Okay, that's it. Yeah. So the question is like, was it worth it? What did you get? Yeah, and if you do like a loop or this could be like an array, and you just like don't repeat all of this stuff. But for kind of like this code, I would probably even leave it as that because it's kind of like easy to explain, easy to understand what is happening here. But there are like some optimizations you can do technically here. So it's inserting it in the wrong thing. So it should be inserting all of that in a new table. And now if I, again, off screen, it's fast. It's like it's not affecting anything. So what I can do now is that instead of empty and instead of like HTML equals new table HTML, right? So like uh, instead of doing that, yes, it doesn't pick up the types, but and it does pick up types for this one, right? So like the more stuff that you write outside of jQuery, the more the better it's going to work. Um, so instead of doing all of that stuff, I think that like the new syntax is replaced with. So it will find a table and it will do one DOM change. So instead of for like 20 rows, five, like instead of 100 DOM changes, you're going to do one DOM change. Like, uh, yes, now table. Why am I getting table twice? Oh, because this one is jQuery. Yes, doesn't matter. um, so this is what like React code is doing. So it's like once you're comparing it to the jQuery version and you're saying, hey, look, it's the same. Yeah, it looks the same, but it does kind of like stupidly less stuff, and it does less where it doesn't do very important stuff. That's the thing. It's like just because it doesn't look different, it doesn't mean that like React actually does like a lot of like proper stuff. So React is not going to do like 100 DOM changes. That's that's kind of like important part, right? And uh, that's why it was so easy to sell React 10 years ago, because it's like it's faster, it's safer, and it's like much easier to reason about. The problem with this code is like it's completely whatever the render thing was. Yeah, so this is my render thing. It's like it's completely separate code, and you need to know a lot of details how this works, and you need to know a lot of details how this works for it to even like work. Uh, and you might not know how to do JavaScript properly. Hey, you have XSS in JavaScript. You might not know how to do PHP properly. Hey, now you have XSS in JavaScript. Oh, in types PHP. So you're writing two apps, and the thing is that you're writing two bad apps, and it's hard to do the right thing. That's that's probably what I'm trying to say. Uh, it looks like PHP and looks like jQuery, but it does much better job at everything. And you can do the same job, but it's going to be kind of like much and much harder, right? So here I only have a class name, but what if I also have a style? Oh, now I need to like have a second check, and oh, but I forgot to synchronize that style to this style, and so on. So it's like that's why everyone stopped doing that, because no one knew how to do it properly. And my thesis is that still no one knows. This is what people said to me is the best advice on PHP. This is the best kind of like thing how they know how to do things, and it has XSS or SQL injection, and like Jack is pretty good at his stuff, but when he wrote his PHP and jQuery thing, it's full of injections, right? And it is possible to it is possible to write everything better, but you have to ask a guy who like writes PHP for 20 years before he can say it to you, right? It's and like and again, not only PHP, but you also need to know jQuery well before doing that. And that's the thing, is like you can you can try to find someone who knows PHP but didn't quit yet, and this same person has to know jQuery well and like didn't quit it yet, and that guy is competing against person who like heard about React yesterday, and the guy who's doing React is going to be doing much better job. And I think that part that is missing in that video. That video is like, yeah, it looks kind of the same, yeah. So you can do similar stuff. It's not as ergonomic. No, it's like it's much worse. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Yeah, so he compares the
That
performance
means that.
and yeah. So so this is the graph that I like.
So I think
If you don't include jQuery, your JavaScript code is like 500 bytes, and this is where I am with my B2B SaaS kit, right? So this is the wrong. I should redirect it because it doesn't work anymore. Dot Vercel. So this is where my this is where my like B2B thing comes in, because I'm writing it in that very kind of like Astro and vanilla JavaScript, similar to kind of like PHP and jQuery styles. Not every page, but just to show that like you can do it. So if we go to pages and oh, I guess yeah, I need to switch to a different branch. How do I do that? The branch is something animations. Something animations. Okay, this one. Oh, was it merged? Okay. um, oh, it's in setup. Oops. Setup step. Okay. Yeah. So this is me doing this whole kind of like writing to apps. So I have a server side app that is rendering um, that is rendering like the title of the thing, and it renders the content of the thing, and then in JavaScript I need to like connect to the right one, figure out like if it changed, and like propagate all the like uh, JavaScript changes and stuff. So like I'm not changing content here, so it's like it's a bit easier. But if I would, it would look very similar. And here's how it looks into the deployed version, right? So this is like, in order to do this animation, I can't do this animation on the server, but on the server, like section could be open, and I need to have this information on the server, and I need to like consume it on the client, if that makes sense, before I can show a section as open one. So for me here, I only duplicate this like one flag, but the more stuff that you do, the more duplication that you need to do. Uh, and yes, so this page, if you look at if you look at JavaScript payload, it will take some time, but I think I'm finishing. um, I can check Twitter just in case of like I got something. No, I think it's yeah. So the only JavaScript that I'm getting here is this one has React. Did you not update it yet? Why do we have React? Okay. Well, okay, then it will take a bit more time. So we have animation something. Okay, this one. Okay, and we'll do it again. That could give me a time to check if the Jack wrote something. Yeah, so he doesn't even know what I'm talking about. That's interesting. Yeah, and I think this is like the worst excuse possible, because this this is why like Rust has unsafe keyword, right? So you're like, yeah, so the whole application is safe. Where we're taking the risk is marked with unsafe parameter, but keyword or like I don't know block. But in PHP and jQuery, you're like, oh, like everything is unsafe, but there is an implicit knowledge that if you know where exactly data comes from, it's actually okay to do that. And it's like, yeah, but who is going to check if that condition is going to be false? It's like, yeah, I vetted this data, but it's like, okay, so if you have a I don't know like a copywriter that can access your data, and that copywriter got uh, compromised, or like how Linus Tech Tips got like hacked because of like just guy with that was like working in marketing, right, got hacked, and now like the whole YouTube channels is removed. So like now a person who can change name of a Pokemon can run arbitrary code in your in like in all of your users' browsers. You think this is a security risk that you like taken care of, right? Like why are you leaving so many open doors and just hope that everything works out, right? So this is kind of like Jay Diesel kind of like thinking of like, yeah, we have executable comments, but like no one writes code in comments yet, so it's fine. Yeah, it's fine until like something bad happens. Okay, okay, so this is more like it. So all of JavaScript code that this page has, it's in analytics, and because like the actual JavaScript is like so small that it can't even detect it. But it like it actually does something. We need to figure out what to do with those analytics. It's like it looks bad when the score is like oops. It looks bad that the score is not 100 for the page that like does nothing, right? And that's mostly analytics. I should try to use Party Town to bring it to like 99 at least, right? Um, yeah. So for me, like I played with this kind of like with this like writing your app twice instead of like writing instead of running the same app twice, which is like SSR, right? You write your app once, but you run it twice. Once on server to generate HTML, and then once on client to kind of like to make it interactive. So here I only render it once, and I have like another separate app that can like manipulate that data. So it can like turn this icon, it could like open and close thing. So and I started with PHP like almost 20 years ago, and I wrote what was called like Ajax and Comet and like all of that stuff, and that's why like stuff like HTMX work, HTMX. That's why like stuff is HTMX of like yeah, we used to do that. Like that used to be like the way to write PHP code, but all of them are going to be doing like sensible things. Oh yeah, I forgot the other thing. So um, the other option is that when you're doing so search PHP. So what is doing PHP? Yeah, so this one. So here, what you can do is you can get something like Ultra HTML, micro HTML. I forgot. Validate HTML JS. Okay, it's not it. HTML tags. Okay, something like that. ultrahtml. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, by innate. Uh, so what you can do in ultrahtml is you have a parser, and you actually have like allowed elements and sanitize function. So, and again, it's like, why do you need to install like libraries? Yeah, because like React is doing all of that stuff for you. It's like that. And again, like if you're for this page, for example, when I switch between tags, between links, I'm getting this HTML from the server, and I was like, of course I'm going to run it through sanitizer. Like, why wouldn't I? It's like it doesn't make any sense to just inject HTML into your code. What if it's coming from me? But like, it's still like a bad idea. Can I just search ultra HTML? This is like, why am I creating unsafe part of the code for just for the sake of like creating this unsafe part of the code? It's like, yeah, just make everything safe, and then if you need something you can like tweak it, instead of, yeah, just make everything unsafe, and then once you have an issue, like try to figure out like in what order you're going to fix all of that stuff. Yeah, so I'm getting this HTML when I click between pages. It comes from where is it? Yeah, remember when I said I'm going to fit it in half an hour? Okay, so I'm clicking here, and all of it is proxy down. I guess I clicked on the wrong one. Okay, okay. Comparisons, yeah. So this is the HTML that I'm getting, and it's like, why am I running that? No, just just give me. Oh, where is this? Okay, sorry. Yeah, just uh, I'm just allowing kind of like that and that element, and I'm going to like do something with it. Do you have it twice or? Yeah, so like I'm checking that uh, I'm doing kind of like some even like checks that it's coming from like my server first, um, but I want to sanitize the data so that I don't get so that my app is secure by default. And if I need to like if I'm using this component to like to do something else, it's like, okay, I can like allow it as well. So and if I need to like add some attributes like or whatever, I can add it later. But instead of, what this code does is, where is it? um, so I do this get doc thing. uh, yeah, okay, so I need to go to docs dot tsx. Yeah, and I do inner HTML. This is solid, so it doesn't have that dangerously set inner HTML that I like. But and yeah, I actually like to keep that kind of like code closer to where I use it. So it's like it's slightly like bugging me that like I validate data like there, but I use it here, and it's like, okay, so who is going to promise me that this data is safe? So usually I try to like sanitize it right in the place. So it's like so I know that like, okay, I'm inserting HTML because I just sanitized it. So um, I don't remember why I do that. I think I need to like to collect some metadata as well, and that's why I'm doing it this way. Um, but yeah, anyway, this is uh, I've been doing it for a long time. I had all kind of vulnerabilities in my code. I had XSS, I had SQL injections, I had shell injections. So like I know all of that because like I did all of that, and uh, that's why it's like security is not like sexy is like, oh, I'm calling this function to make everything secure. It's like, so what? It's like, show me the frames per seconds or something like kind of like more tangible than security. That's why security has to be on by default. That's why it's like, that's why I would never trust PHP and jQuery when you can, when like it's unsecure by default. And it's a bit sad that like it's a bit sad that like no one even knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so if you have any questions in the chat, otherwise I think I'm going to finish it because it's like yeah, it's 1 hour already. Yeah, and I will try to put everything that I talked about like in the links. Yeah, uh, subscribe to Jack, like his videos. He's a he's doing a lot of stuff, but it's like it's impossible to know everything, right? So like he spent his time on like trying to add Rust into the mix. He didn't want to spend his time representing PHP in a good light, right? So I'm like I understand why he did that, but it's still upsetting that like people just don't know how bad it is. And yeah, okay. Thank you, everyone, and